观众朋友您好，欢迎您收看本期的加州竞选特别节目。本期节目呢，我们来关注加州的第10号公投提案，又叫做 Proposition 10。这项提案的发起者呢，旨在推翻目前加州实行的 Costa-Hawkins 法案。那目的呢，是为以后在整个加州实行全面的租金管控，铺平道路。今天呢，我们有请的是 Apartment Owners Association USA 的主席 Mr. Dan Fowler 先生来做客我们的节目。Mr. Fowler, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. My first question is, how will Prop 10 affect the homeowners? Why?
The homeowner, when Prop 10 passes, nothing happens. It's the laws that can be passed afterwards. Prop 10 is nothing but a property rights law. So they're taking away your property rights if Prop 10 passes. So they're just taking away your property rights. Now, the city council can put homes under rent control, and when you're under rent control, you have to pay fees to the rent control board. They also, when they have rent control, they will, with apartments, the inspector comes along, we call him a Gestapo. The inspector comes along and he can inspect your home and go through your whole home, and if you're not living up to their standards, they can make you repair your homes, paint the homes, put a new roof on, fix the plumbing. Whatever that guy tells you to do, you'd have to do if the city council passes a law like that in your city.
Okay. So how will Prop 10 affect the home values?
If Prop 10 passes, I think it's going to cause prices to go sky high for rents and for renters especially, and there'll be a scarcity of building because builders are not going to stay around as much. Okay. And so it could cause, I don't think the home value itself, except those homes that are purchased for rentals, those people are probably going to get out of the business and go someplace else. So they're going to sell their homes.
Sell their homes.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to say what a home price is going to happen because of the proposition. Apartments is a different case. You pretty much know what's going to happen there.
Okay. And how do you think, how will Proposition 10 affect the new construction and the development of affordable housing?
New construction is really going to be affected. Like myself, I built some apartments the last couple of years. I built a 36-unit building, and I built another 16-unit building. I didn't build them in California because of the laws here. I built them in another state, but I'm just a small guy in that regard. But builders themselves are going to find it a lot harder and less profitable, so they're going to go someplace else. So it's going to affect construction.
Okay. Why, please?
Because it won't be as profitable to do it. In other words, to build the apartment buildings, to be a builder with all the laws that they have.
Okay. And how will Prop 10 affect the existing rental properties?
Existing rental properties, the values will go down. When Prop 10 passes, nothing changes. It's what the city council is allowed to do. And so we've already had people call and say they're going to sell their buildings if Prop 10 passes because of what the city council can do. There's cities like Berkeley and Oakland and San Francisco, Santa Monica, and West Hollywood.
They already have rental control there.
Oh, they have rental controls all over, but they will make them harder. In other words, they'll take away a valuable thing, what's called vacancy decontrol. When somebody moves out of a unit, you can reset the market at a fair price. Right. And those cities that I just mentioned would probably take that away. Okay. And so therefore, apartments will not be as valuable. Yeah. And so the price will go down. Some of the experts are saying a decrease of 20 to 30%.
Oh, wow. 20 to 30%.
That's what some experts are saying.
Okay.
I'm not that much of an expert to be able to predict the future.
Yeah. But the purpose is to control the rental price. But if Prop 10 passes, how do you think it's going to affect the rental prices?
Well, the rental prices for people who already have an apartment are going to be held down. But new people coming into the state or if you want to move, you've had kids, you need a bigger apartment, and you want to move, you can have a hard time finding an apartment.
So you cannot move.
Huh? That's right, and that's already happening.
Okay.
Where people will have kids and the rent's so low, they stay there. They'll have 2 or 3 kids in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Actually, they lost their freedom.
Pardon? They've lost their freedom, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's about property rights, and they want to take away the property rights.
And how do you think, how will Prop 10 will affect the economy, employment, and the government income of California?
Well, if construction drops, as they're saying it will, there's going to be a loss of a lot of jobs. As a result of that, as a result of loss of jobs, the economy is so strong, it'll make it up in other areas, hopefully that it will. But the loss of those jobs is going to be loss of taxes. The value of buildings going down are going to cost in taxes, so that'll affect the schools and things of that nature with less money coming in.
Okay. How will Prop 10 affect the homelessness crisis?
Oh my goodness. If Prop 10 passes, again, and then the city councils start tightening up with the rent control and making it worse, it's going to create more homeless people. It's going to create a bigger problem because housing is going to become more scarce. And if you own an apartment building and I'm a friend of yours, you're probably going to rent it to me. You're not going to rent it to some other person who needs the housing.
Yeah.
You'll rent it to your friends. And so it goes to friends and relatives instead of to people that are looking for a rental. That's what happens a lot in Santa Monica, because it was so bad there.
Okay. I heard about San Francisco has currently it has about over 40,000 apartment units. They just take off from the market.
That are vacant.
They're
Right.
vacant.
In other words, as an owner, you may not want to put up with all those laws. And if you can afford it, you leave it vacant. I think it's economically not a sound thing to do.
Right.
However, owners are doing it. If they can afford to go without the rent, then they go without it.
Yeah.
And so it takes housing off the market, creates more homeless problems. And that's a big problem. The homeless is a big problem today that needs to be solved.
So you think Prop 10 actually make things worse?
Oh my goodness, there's no question that Prop 10 will make things worse.
Okay.
Property rights is kind of the foundation of all of our other freedoms in the United States. And when you take away those property rights or allow the politicians to take away those property rights, you're destroying the freedoms that we have here in America.
Okay. So some people say, I've heard about kind of a perspective that California is heading toward socialism. Do you agree with this?
We're tending towards socialism. We're already a socialistic country. I mean, look at all the socialistic programs that you have. You have Social Security to start off with. Everybody loves that. They're not going to turn loose of that. You have food stamps. You have Section 8 housing, where you provide housing for people. And so we already have a lot. You have health care. Those are all socialistic programs. And you know what socialism leads to. And so it kind of scares me right now.
The communists.
Pardon?
Communists.
Well, that's what it usually leads to.
Yeah. And how will Prop 10 affect like Section 8 tenants, please?
I don't think there should be an effect on Section 8. I haven't seen anything on that. If anything, if they want to solve the housing problem, it's not with more laws. What they should do is issue vouchers to people who can't afford it.
Yeah.
Because there are very wealthy people who are under rent control and they're paying $1,000 a month for a $3,000 a month apartment.
Right.
And they're making more money than the owner of the apartment. and so vouchers for people who have a certain level of income would be a better solution than rent control.
Yeah.
In our opinion. And it would, again, it's more socialism, but it's socialistic anyway. So it's just more of the same. And I'm not in favor of vouchers, I'm not in favor of anything like that, but it's a better solution than what these socialistic city councils and politicians and bureaucrats believe in.
I saw a newspaper that the owner is selling his apartment complex in a low price before Prop 10.
Yeah, the owners
Bypassed.
would sell, not half. I wouldn't do that. I don't think he has to do that.
Okay.
Okay, so that he may have to take a concession to what the prices have been
Okay.
with it before it happens.
Yeah. Mr. Fowler, will Prop 10 provide any solutions while repealing the Costa-Hawkins Act?
Will it provide a solution?
You see any
What,
solutions?
it'd be a solution to advancing the cause of socialism. It would be a solution to advancing the cause of those people who want more power and more control over the people. That's a solution to their problem because they take away our property rights.
But you didn't see there's solution for helping
To housing?
Yeah.
None. It makes it worse.
Okay.
It makes it a lot worse. Like I say, they're taking rentals off the market as a result of it. Some of the owners are. And so it's going to cause more of a scarcity problem than anything else. And I would encourage anybody who believes in property rights and freedom to vote no on this Proposition 10.
Is anti-Prop 10 a partisan issue, I think?
Is it a partisan thing?
Yeah.
The Democratic Party has endorsed Prop 10. So if you're a Democrat, I would encourage you to call the party people and chew them out for being against your property rights, if you're a Democrat, because the party has endorsed it, which is terrible.
Okay. But I know there's some also Democrat members, they anti-Prop 10. They don't support Prop 10.
There are some Democrats, so there are some Democrats that are smart. But the party itself is not too smart.
Okay. Why does the government try to control the rental market instead of free market economy?
Why does the government try to control the market?
Yeah.
Because they think they're smarter than everybody else, number one. Number two, the people who run for office run for a purpose. And in most cases, they want more power. They think they're smarter than all the rest of us, and if they just have the power, they can solve our problems. I have a message for them. I can solve my problems better than any politician out there.
Because you know your business.
Because I know my business. Okay. Most of these people have never provided housing for anybody else. They don't know anything about the housing market. Some of them have never provided housing for themselves. How can they be telling me or our members who provide housing for people how to do it? They don't know how to do it, and they're going about it in the wrong way, and that's why it's such a mess. And that's one of the reasons, there are several, that housing prices cost so much and why rentals have gone so high. The politicians cause the problem, and then they come up and say, we have the solution, so vote for me.
What's the impact of current rental control laws and policies on social ethics? Did you see anything wrong with our ethics?
Unethical.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of things that go under the table that take place out there. But rent control itself, if it's evil, it's an evil itself. It's stealing.
Okay.
I mean, if you own a piece of property and I come along and say, you've got to sell it for a certain price, I've stole the fair market value from you. Okay. And that's stealing. And so to start with, it's an unethical law. Do unethical laws cause people to act in an unethical manner? Yes. And it's sad. It's a sad thing. But the politicians think it's okay to steal. They're a bunch of crooks, okay, is what it comes down to.
So what's the real solution of the rental and the housing market in California?
Well, the real solution is a free market. From the time America was formed, over 200 years ago, the free market has worked best. And that would work best in the housing, because more housing would be built if you had a free market, and you'd bring prices down compared to what the rent control has contributed to causing prices to go up.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with the perspectives of political correctness that the homeowners is guilty and sinful, and yet the tenant is always innocent? You agree with that?
Yeah, the landlord's always made a bad guy, but he's the good guy in this situation. He provides all the housing the rental housing, apartments, are provided by these people, but yet they make them the bad guy. And that's the politicians that do that, and they do it to get votes, because the housing providers represent 1 or 2% of the population. And so they don't care if they lose our vote, but they want the vote of the tenant who they promise a free ride to and free things. The more freebies they promise, they can get elected, and that's the way they work. It's the way they get votes, by giving away the assets of the property owners. And homeowners, beware, because it's coming. After they take care of all this, they're going to go after homeowners.
Homeowners, why?
Because they want more power. They want more control. And you rent homes out, you rent a room out, maybe in the house. You're an older person, you need to rent a room to pay your bills.
Right.
Okay, they want to control that.
How are they gonna do with the,
One way they control it is if you want to go on a vacation, so you rent your home out, you're going to go for a year. You're going to go to China and visit relatives for a year, okay? And so you want to rent your home out. When you come back, try to get it from that tenant if they have laws and rent control. You can't get it. You may have to pay the tenant $20,000 to move out. It's called a relocation fee, and that's what the politicians have come up with.
Do you have any other thoughts to share with our audiences?
Any other thought? Well, one example, Will, this is a true story, not a true name, but I'll change his name. Will was an apartment owner in Santa Monica. He had come back from the Vietnam War. He had had a Purple Heart, not a Purple Heart. He had won medals, and he was partially disabled. He moved into his 4-unit apartment and went to Santa Monica College. He was a young guy, so he wanted to get his college education. And he rented the other 3 units out to students from the college. And several years went by. This was back in the 70s. Several years went by. It was in Santa Monica. He had a nice apartment down, close to the ocean and everything. And what happened, he wanted to go on a vacation. And so he asked a property manager to manage his property. And the property manager started taking it over, and all the pipes in the building burst. It was going to cost him $45,000 to fix all the pipes. He couldn't raise the rent. He never did raise the rent before the rent control very much, just enough to meet his expenses. And so he told the manager, says, well, I'm going on my vacation. He says, well, what's going on? And he says, I don't want the building anymore. Do you want to buy it? Well, the manager said, no, I don't want to buy that building. He says, well, I'm going to let it go back to the bank. So the bank, he went on his vacation. He says, I'm going back to Vietnam where things are a lot nicer than they are here in Santa Monica. And so the bank took it over, sold it to a developer. The developer tore the building down, so they lost those 4 rental units, tore the building down, built condominiums, sold the condominiums to people who had more money. And so you lost, that's how scarcity is caused. They tear the buildings down. If you can't raise your rent to fair market, why have the building?
Right.
So you'll sell it, and who buys it? The guy will tear it down and build condominiums so he can make more money.
How do you think, is it fair to provide free legal aid only to tenants?
This is the laugh. The politicians do this for the tenants. Again, the owners represent only 1 or 2% of the population.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to give, and they don't like owners. We've been made bad guys. We provide all the housing, as I've mentioned before, but they still think we're bad guys. And so they give free legal help to the tenants. As a result of that, that drives the cost of housing up, because what these legal aid guys do, and they're a bunch of crooks, they're sucking money out of the industry. And what they do, they want a trial. The tenant doesn't pay his rent, so you want to evict him if you're an owner. So that's because you need, it costs money to have somebody in the apartment. And so you go to evict him, he goes and gets free legal help, and they want a trial. And trials cost a minimum of $10,000, $15,000 to the owner. And so the attorney tries to settle, and they'll settle maybe for $10,000. So the attorney gets a good part of that money, and it goes into the fund, and they just feed that program that way. But they're sucking money out of the housing industry away from the owner by giving that free legal help. But they won't give it to the owner. So the owner has to pay all that money, driving the price of housing up, the cost of housing up.
What do you want to say to the audiences regarding Prop 10, please?
Vote no. Please vote no and protect your property rights by voting no on Prop 10 and help preserve affordable housing by voting no on Prop 10.